The year is 1980. I'm 8 years old.
British Airways 747 Club and Super Club. You can't help noticing the difference.
Thanks to my stepfather having British Airways as a client, we got to fly on holiday to Antigua in a British Airways Jumbo 747 in 1980 when I was 8. As if that wasn't cool enough, on the flight back, I got to sit in the cockpit jump seat as we came into land at Heathrow at night when I was 8 years old in 1980. Experiences like that stay with you. 20 years later, during the early 2000s, when we had offices in Sydney, Sri Lanka and the United States, I spent many hours flying all over the world, mostly in British Airways 747s. Fast forward another 20 years, and to my complete surprise, I get to have another very special British Airways experience, this time as a pilot. And I am beside myself with excitement and nerves. That's the A380 over there. For people new to my channel, I got my private pilot's license in 2010, and general aviation, in particular flying seaplanes, has become my number one passion. So much so, this entire YouTube channel is solely to document my efforts of making the dream come true of one day flying my family around the world in a seaplane, especially to get to those far-flung places that can't be reached any other way. The nostalgia as I entered the 70s building at Heathrow was off the scale. Here I was in the beating heart of the world's favourite airline, where all the pilots get trained, on the long line of flight simulators covering everything from the 737 up to the Jumbo, and the colossus I was going to fly today, the Airbus A380. Years ago, I got to sit in the cockpit of a Jumbo 747 coming into that at Heathrow at night when I was 8 years old. And now I'm about to get to go in a British Airways A380 simulator. I am crazy excited about this. A380.
787?
Okay, I'm having sensory overload a little bit with all this. It's incredible. As a private pilot, all I wanted to know was, could I actually land this thing if I had to? I was about to find out. This is it.
4 hours, this is it.
Look at me. I'm grinning like a Cheshire cat. Is this one we're going to go in?
This is what we're going to go in.
To begin with, the first thing that blew my mind was the sheer size of these simulators. They were 2 stories high, and I wasn't expecting the full safety briefing was going to be needed, as if we were in a real airplane. Ropes.
They're attached. Throw them over.
That's more like it. I'm used to
throw
go
over and the rope goes down. There's a kick-out panel if you need to get out, as there is in the flight deck.
My instructor Ryan gave me plenty of time to get settled in and get familiar, to let me get rid of any nerves or as much as I could. And I had an extensive briefing of the inside of this extraordinary piece of technology.
Right, so the screens, all those 4 knobs there are for turning up the brightness.
Okay.
So if you put those to your taste, that one there is the PFD, the next one along is the nav display.
I'd always heard from other pilots that these state-of-the-art simulators for the world's biggest airplanes are astonishingly realistic. And the nerves I felt were just as big as the nerves I would have felt if I'd been getting into the real thing.
That's it, one more, that's it, and then flip the over, and that's where we eat our dinner. One more flip, that's where we do some business, and if you just use the mouse...
We only had a couple of hours. That might sound like a long time, but with all the things I wanted to get done, it went in a blink.
Here, if you want to start the APU, so if you push that one, that gets the APU system ready. So it fires up this page. Whenever you push a system button on here, it brings up the page that you're working with.
Okay.
So we need to have the APU on to,
Yep.
sustain ourselves to push back start the engine. So if you push start below it, just one firm push, and you can push the APU bleed on as well. So that'll start up, and then we've of course self-sustain. Once that's started up, we can ditch these 4 buttons here. When it's green, it'll tell you, and then the ground engineers will remove the ground power. Once that's removed, we're self-sustaining. We're ready to push back. So he's finished his pushback, so he would say pushback complete, set brakes apart. So if he reached down and put the brakes on, he'll then disappear. And in that time, number 1 and number 2 started.
Okay.
So you'll say, can we start 3 and 4? And just do the same to 3 and 4, Charlie.
After what seemed like an eternity of briefing, I finally got to actually use the controls to move the plane.
Right, you fancy taxiing it?
Sure.
Right.
So what about the brakes? Is it toe brakes?
Toe brakes, yeah, absolutely. So to taxi it, it's toe brakes, and to steer it is the tiller. So the motion's just on, so you'll start feeling movement soon.
And even just taxiing it on the apron got my heartbeat racing. It genuinely felt as if I was behind the controls of a real Airbus A380. Even taxiing it very slowly, you had all of the G-force input. You could even feel the bump of the nose gear going over the cat's eyes. It was the first time I got to use a tiller, effectively a tiny steering wheel for the nose gear on these very big planes.
You can feel the gear going over the lights.
Yeah, the motion's kicked in
Incredible.
now.
It is, and I'm getting all kinds of body signals of what's happening and not happening. It's crazy. My
Check the
adrenaline
flight
is already, I'm
instruments.
absolutely buzzing.
Wait till you take off.
As we lined up and got ready to take off, my heart was in my mouth. And I can't remember feeling that level of nerves and excitement at any other time. As the instructor told me, taking off was relatively straightforward. But the bit I really wanted to get right was the landing.
So up to
the T, all 4 up to the T. And just roughly, that's it. And then you look it out to make sure that you're on the centre line. The thrust is going to come up to just under 30%. Perfect. And then 2 clicks forward, so all forward click and 1 more click. That's it. I'll say to you, man flex, SRS, auto thrust. Thrust is set. So right now we'd be keeping it on the centre line as you are. We'd be making sure, one of us would make sure all the engines are working properly, and we make sure the airspeeds are both working. I'm going to call you 100 knots. You would check we've got 100 knots. They're both working.
All fixed-wing aircraft effectively fly in a similar way. But when you're going from something as small as a Cessna 182 with 4 seats to the biggest passenger aircraft in the world weighing over 500 tons, the speed of reaction to your control inputs is pretty different. And making control corrections as you're trying to come into land is a very different experience.
So we're just at 3 miles, 1,000 feet, going to do that last
Full
section
flaps
again.
already?
We're at full flap,
Okay.
brakes are off, the auto thrust's in. So just keep it coming down, and don't do anything until 50 feet or you get a bit high. And then once the back wheels hit, when you selected reverse, that wants to pitch the nose up. So just fly the nose down onto the ground, and then keep the reverse in. But other than that, autopilot's off. The MPU's got the thrust on. By all means, if you want to take it off, I can do that as well.
What, to touch and go? No.
Do you want to do one? Do
500.
one more landing. Get a landing out of it.
100.
Right, start to flare a bit more.
50, 40, 20, retard.
Hold it there. Perfect. Hold it there. Hold it there. And she'll fall on. Do the flight back.
Floating.
Oh, it's touched down beautifully. Look at that. Even as it keeps flying it on. Beautiful. Oh my God, Charlie.
That was a reset.
You were on the one for a while there. Goodness me. Amazing. Really good.
I'll never forget the sense of complete awe as an 8-year-old boy sitting in the cockpit of a Jumbo 747 coming into land at Heathrow at night for real. I don't think I ever expected to experience anything like that again. But being at the controls of an Airbus A380 as a private pilot and getting to fly it and land it was probably an even more exciting feeling than I felt as an 8-year-old boy in that jumbo cockpit.
Oh my. Yeah. Thank you, Ryan. That was an experience I will never forget.
I'm glad. I'm so glad.
Oh,
It's lovely
Just-
just to have someone experience that, because you can explain it to people until you're blue in the face, but until you actually see what it feels like.
exactly.
So Ryan, thank you for making a 50-year-old man's dreams come true. It really was a day I'll remember for the rest of my life.